Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and I look forward each and every week to bringing you amazing content that will provide you with a financial education, will support you on your financial journey, and most importantly, help you to find financial freedom. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Welcome to the Nickels and Dimes Finding Financial Freedom podcast. I'm your host, Natalie Kime, and today I am talking about how to do 2025 differently. Last week's episode, I really talked about financial goals you can put in place or tasks you can put in place throughout the year when it comes to your finances. But today I want to talk about doing things different in 2025 in general, just whatever it is you do, your job, your life, your relationship, whatever you're focused on changing or improving this year, or just growing in a new direction as an individual or in one of those areas. I looked up the idea of doing things different in 2025, and the search kicked back and said to do 2025 different means to approach the new year with a fresh perspective, making significant changes in your lifestyle, habits, or goals. Here's a few steps to achieve that. Reflect on the past year, set clear intentions, identify areas for improvement, create actionable goals, prioritize self-care, embrace new experiences, and actively work towards personal growth. Essentially, actively designing a year that looks noticeably different from previous ones by making deliberate choices and taking action. You know, it's crazy because the other day, somebody posted in their stories on social media, a friend of mine, asking the question, do you do resolutions or not? And I responded and I said, no, I don't do resolutions. I set goals. Now, look, at the end of the day, the result you get from either one of those, whatever you call it, may be the exact same, but I don't call the things I put in place for the new year resolutions, because I feel like resolutions in my mind have me focusing on correcting something from the past. A goal has me forward focused. So instead of looking at the past and what I want to change, I look at the future and what I want to create. And it makes me feel like I'm looking through the front window of my car, my life car that I'm driving, versus the rearview mirror. And what do I want to become? Not what do I want to change? Like I said, at the end of the day, the result, whether you call it a resolution or a goal, might be the same. The other thing is I feel like whenever I set a resolution, it felt like this heavy thing that was weighing on me to follow through with it every single day. And none of us are perfect. We're going to slip. We're going to fall. We're going to hop on the struggle bus sometimes. And so for me, it's a goal. And I'm breaking that goal for 2025 down into quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily activities. And then my focus is just on doing this activity consistently, not the overall end result. I'm focusing on the activity I need to do every day that will create the result that I want. So that's really my focus for this week's conversation. And this may be a shorter episode than most, but I'm just hoping that I can plant some seeds that maybe help you think this, first full week of the new year about where you're at and how you're approaching things for the new year. The first thing I'm going to say is, good grief, give yourself grace. You are not going to be perfect, especially if there's something absolutely new that you're doing that you haven't done before. You're learning whatever that is on your terms. How does that work for you? And that definition is not the same for everybody. I found another list that says 6 ways to make 2025 a year of actual change. Number 1, transform an avoidance goal into an approach goal. New Year's resolutions often highlight perceived vices, and how to indulge in them less is the focus. So kind of what I said, it's looking at the back or at the past, something I did wrong or something I need to improve rather than looking to the future and something I want to become or I want to create in my life. And for me, that shift makes a big difference. If I feel that weight of a resolution, I feel more resistance within myself. But if I'm looking at a goal or a dream, something I want to create, it feels new and fresh. And those changes in behavior or growth I need to make as an individual to get there feels like a positive challenge instead of that negative pressure. Um, Number two says, chunk your goals. For me, I'm a goal oriented person and a dream focused person, creating that into reality. So do you totally throw away your goals? I don't know that that's the right way to look at that, but for some people, I think that they approach it and say, I know what I want to create this year, and they don't focus so much on the goals. They just create activity and momentum in that direction to create that thing or that life that they want for themselves. So again, whatever you want to call it, what are you working towards? What's that measurement you want to accomplish? Is it personal growth? Is it growth in faith? Is it growth in family or relationships? However you go after that, create the activity. The other day we were on a team call and somebody brought up the topic of fear, and different people were giving advice on, how to approach fear. Do it anyway. Well, yeah, you got to do it anyway. You got to overcome it and prove to yourself that you can push past the fear to accomplish what you want. For me, though, resolving fear being something that holds me back is all about just taking action, whether it's a small action or a big action. I'm looking at taking action every day in the direction I want to go. That does not mean the fear goes away. I read a book this last year by Jen Gottlieb, and I cannot think of the name of it right now. I can't believe that. But she talks about fear in this book. And I listened to a podcast of her speaking about the book, and she relayed this same concept, is that fear is never going to go away. It's always going to be there in some way, trying to hold us back from doing the thing or becoming everything we can be. And her approach is to tell fear, look, I know you're always going to be there, but you no longer get to drive this car. You can buckle up in the passenger seat and ride along, but you don't get to drive. You don't get to control the radio station. You don't get to control anything. So you come along with me. I'm acknowledging that you're there, but I'm not letting you be in charge anymore. And I thought that was absolutely it. It was mind changing for me, or just the thought process around fear. It impacted a huge change with that for me. And so that's something that I focus on, is I know the fear is there, and the whole point is I got to do it anyway. I got to do it afraid, or I may end up in the future regretting that I never did something. And so give fear the permission to be there, but not to control the action or the outcome of what's going on by paralyzing you. The third item on this list was track effort, not outcome. And that's what I was talking about. I do is I break my goal down into activities, things I can actually do that are going to produce the result. Yes, I have a target framework for when I want to be at that goal. But what I focus on every day is that activity or that effort that's going to get me to the outcome. I'm not going to look so far forward that I get stuck on where I'm trying to get and I forget to do the things that will help me move in that direction or arrive at the place I want to be. I'm going to focus on what today can I do to move towards that every single day, one day at a time. And eventually I'll look up. Now, yes, of course, I would love that for that to be, when I look up, to be the time frame that I set to reach this goal. But if I can look at every single day and know I'm making progress, then I trust with full belief that I will get to the goal. And I just keep moving one day at a time, one day at a time. Number 4 on this list was find community. You hear all the time that you become most like the people that you spend the most time with, or you become like the 5 people you spend most time with, however it's said. Find community that has big goals, that's moving and growing in the direction that you want to grow. In my company at Universal Wealth, I have a phenomenal community, and I don't call them my community. I call them my family, because that's truly what we are. We have 1,700 agents following the same system. And that means we're all running into the same speed bumps along the way, but we're also all achieving success along the way. And so I have 1,699 other people moving in the same direction I am, who some of them are ahead of me, some of them are behind me, some of them are at the same pace. But at the end of the day, somewhere along the way, someone can help me in my journey. If they're ahead of me, they can tell me how to work through some of the things I'm going to run into along the way. If they're running along beside me, they can say, I'm right there with you, sister. Let's just keep going. And if it's somebody that is new to the business, that's behind me in that sense, I have the ability to turn around and say, keep going, and encourage them along the way. And that's what's so important about a community. People who are like-minded, who are focused on improving in similar areas and can share their experiences, their encouragement, and their support to you along the way. I think that's imperative when you're working towards something. So if you're on a health journey, surrounding yourself with people who are also on health journeys that you can get advice for. That's something I'm focused on. I started about 3 months ago, and I'm about halfway to my goals with that. But my ultimate goal is just to live a happier and truly healthier life, both physically, mentally, spiritually, in every area. But in my physical growth right now, challenging myself in that area, I have friends and I have colleagues that are on that same journey. I have a check-in call with my nutrition coach every single week and tell her where I'm struggling or where I feel like I'm succeeding. So I have somebody checking in on me, kind of pulse checks, I guess, to make sure that I'm doing okay, or somebody that if I've struggled that week, I can talk to right now, not when that week turns into a month, turns into 2 months, and I've completely fallen off track. So make sure that you have those people around you in whatever area that you're focused on growth or accomplishment for this year. Create the ideal physical environment. I'll tell you right now, recording this podcast, I'm looking at my desk thinking, all right, I've got to spend a few minutes organizing some things. It's a Sunday that I'm recording this. So organizing some things so that I'm better set up to get moving tomorrow when my week starts. But I've got some snacks in front of me. I've got a stack of papers to my left, a stack of books next to that, some more papers on the right-hand side. My office and my desk by no means are a complete tornado, but it's messy for me. It's not organized. I don't have things set up where they're in order of what I need to take care of. And so right now, as I look at my desk, it feels like a distraction. So after I finish recording this, I'm going to spend a few minutes getting my environment that I work in organized so that it's not a distraction when I hit the ground running tomorrow to start my week. And then the sixth one, tackle one goal at a time. Don't try to change every single thing all at once. I would say don't get completely singularly focused and let other areas of your life or other areas of your business or your relationships fall off. But I do agree that if you try to grow, change, improve in multiple areas at the same time, it can distract from one another and make you feel like you're not making progress. Like I said, I started my health journey about, well, maybe almost 3.5 months ago now. And that was really my focus on that was the new thing I was focused on doing. And how do I do that every single day and put the time and attention to create the habits I needed to? It didn't mean that I shut off everything else and I stopped chasing, my business goals and my personal life goals through the rest of the year. And I'm continuing my health journey, but now I've created some of those habits. I've created that community. I've got those actionable steps every single day I need to follow in that journey. And so there's something else new I'm starting alongside of that. I don't know if that really makes sense. But I think tackling that one goal to the exclusivity of everything else maybe not be a good thing, but tackle one new area of focus at a time, I do agree with. I was focusing on my health in September when I got this journey started. I already had things in place that were moving along in my business and in my personal life to help me reach goals that I wanted to accomplish there. So I added just one new thing that could take a little bit of extra focus. Now I'm humming along with that and met not every single goal I had in my business last year, but I met a really big one, literally at 11:30 a.m. on December 31st. And I remember telling my mentor a couple of weeks before, we were on a group call talking about our goals for the new year. And I said, I know what my ultimate goal for 2025 is in my business. However, in my mind, I refuse to break that down for 2025 because I still have big things to finish in this last 2 weeks of 2024. And the way my brain works is as soon as I focus on 2025 and what do I accomplish there, I lose sight on what I'm working so hard for to finish 2024 strong. And I didn't know if that mindset would make sense. I think I even said this probably doesn't really make sense to most people, but here's how my brain is thinking about this. And I shared that. And then he came back and said, actually, I think that's brilliant. He said, the fact that you have your 2025 goal in place, great. Leave it on a shelf and work your butt off to finish 2024 strong. And then the afternoon or evening of December 31st, break down your goal for 2025 so you can hit the ground running in the new year. And that's exactly what I did. For me, it was hit that goal or strike midnight on December 31st. And like I said, I hit that goal at 11:30 a.m. on December 31st. It was a big one for me. And it was a testament to me. It was meeting 100 agents in my personal organization in the business. And the reason that was so big for me is that since I joined this industry, and if you've listened to my podcast before, I've been in the industry for almost 6 years now. And I was with my first company for almost, oh my goodness, my first company about 4.5, almost 5 years. And in this last year, I moved to a second company for 7 months. And then we shifted to the company that I'm at now. So I'm at my third company, but I am confident in saying that I'm at my last company. It's so different and it was created different by design. And so in the first company I started with, one of the things you always heard is you get to this certain level of the company. It's the huge first goal that people want to get to, where you're leading people, you're qualifying for bonuses, all these different kind of things, and you get there once you've hit 100 people recruited in that company. Recruiting was part of the promotion, the growth of your business. Well, I couldn't get there. I couldn't get to 10. I struggled. I grew, I fell, I grew, I fell. I had people, life happened to them. They went in different directions. And so I felt like that was something I was just never going to accomplish. That's what was in the back of my head. And so I think all the times I tried to plug in and make that happen, that was living in the back of my head and holding me back. Well, when we switched, a little over a year ago, when I switched to the second company, I told myself I'm never recruiting another person again. And I feel like I've stayed true to that. I don't recruit people. I tell people what I do and why I love it. I tell people there's an opportunity here. And if they show an interest, I share the details about the opportunity and they choose to join me or they ask to join me. But I don't feel like I'm recruiting. And a huge part of that is in the model I'm in, we're not required to recruit. You can reach every level of the company here. You can grow your business, grow yourself, grow your income all by yourself. And that was my plan a year ago. I had one person that was on my team before that came with me, and I had another person that was in business with me that came over and moved into my team. Well, when we switched from the second company to the third company and final company, like I said before, in August, I believe we had about 27 people in our organization. And that all happened organically. Like I said, this environment is so different. I actually had people tell me, you seem so different. You seem so much happier. What are you doing? What's going on? What changed with this company? And when I shared that, they wanted to be a part of it. And here we are. I think as of today, which is January 5th, we're probably at 103, 104 agents, but the goal was to hit 100 in 2024. And I actually ended, so I hit 100 at 11:30 a.m. on December 31st, but then I got one more that afternoon. So I actually ended the year at 101. So plus one, getting 1% better, going one step further than what you set for yourself. But the majority of that was my team stepping up with me and also sharing the opportunity and sharing what we have and why we're different. That from August to December 31st, we almost quadrupled in size. So this is not something I did on my own. This is something I did with an amazing team of people who believe in their own goals and dreams and also believe in mine and in me. And that's an honor and a responsibility I don't take lightly. And so I'm grateful for every single one of them. But my whole point in that was that I had to finish that before I could focus on 2025. And it wasn't that I had to, I worked my butt off in the end to make sure I hit that goal. But I was also fully at peace that if I did not hit the number by midnight on December 31st, I could still be proud because of the effort. I knew I did everything to make it happen. I cannot always control the outcome. I can't control that every person who was interested, that I talked to, that I followed up with, actually pulled the trigger in the right timing to hit my 100 when I needed it. But I knew I was putting in absolute 100% maximum effort to reach that goal. And that was what I was going to be proud of more than the goal itself. And so, like I said, hit that on the 31st, spent that afternoon breaking down 2025. And here's the ironic thing. When you really work on goals and you have this idea of what you're going to accomplish, and then you sit down to break it down, sometimes it's so much bigger than you thought. And what you thought in the beginning seemed big. So I have a huge goal for 2024, but when I broke it down by the reality of what's happening in my business now and what myself and my team are creating now, and I applied it to a whole new year, because we've grown so much, our businesses have grown so much. When I did the math, the number came out almost 3 times bigger than what I was thinking, as far as how much more we want to grow our teams and our part of the organization as a whole, how many families we want to help, and what that's going to produce in numbers. So really breaking down the numbers of the business. And when I looked at the end number, I said, that seems so huge. But then I looked back at the activity that is absolutely reasonable that we're already doing. And that end number is the only number that makes sense. If we're focused on our effort and our activity at the levels we're doing now, plus about 10%, the end number has to be that big. It just has to be. And that is where, for me, it is so important that you can't just throw this number out there and let it overwhelm you and terrify you and paralyze you into inaction. You have to break that down into daily activity and say, is this as much as I'm doing right now? Okay, it is, but there's no push or growth there. So how do I bump it just a little bit more? And it's amazing how the number breaks down into something that, like I said, we're already doing plus about 10%, which is a more than reasonable push goal on top of what we're already creating. And so I'm blown away at what the end number is, but I'm not afraid of it because it makes sense. It has to make sense because the activity makes sense. And I'm hoping that translates to you, and whatever you're looking at, don't focus on that big end result that feels overwhelming, that feels like you're never going to get there. Break it down into quarterly, monthly, weekly, daily goals. If it's a 30-day goal, break it down into weekly and daily, whatever that looks like for you, but break it down into daily activity. And you might actually realize the goal you set is not big enough. Because if you complete that daily activity that you know is completely reasonable for you, you may find out the end result's going to be bigger than you ever thought it could be. And that's my challenge for you guys this week. What are you focused on in 2025? I actually love to hear it. So when you listen to this episode, feel free to comment in there and respond to the episode. There's a link in the episodes that lets you send a message to me. I would love to know what your focus is for 2025. And I'd love to know if you've done the activity of breaking it down quarterly, monthly, weekly, and daily. And when you did that daily result seem reasonable? Did it seem like it's something you could accomplish? And more importantly, when you broke it down to the daily and then reverse the math back out, is the goal even bigger than you planned it to be in the beginning? So I challenge you guys to do that activity with your goals if you haven't. If they're resolutions for you, that's great. If it's neither goals nor resolutions, just things you're adding, that's great too. Have a plan for 2025 and chase that plan. Chase that plan like your life depends on it. Some of you may have plans that your life actually does depend on, and some of yours may not. Maybe your goals are just something that can enhance a part of your life or a relationship that you have, or your goal is based around gaining more education. Whatever that is, it was put on your heart for a reason. So chase it like your life depends upon it, because somehow it's going to play into something bigger that you're headed towards in the future. So I hope you guys have stepped into this new year with excitement, with energy, with confidence. I hope you put fear in the passenger seat and no longer allow it to control you and hold you back. I hope every day you're doing something, whether it's tiny or whether it's big, that builds the belief in yourself that's going to get you to where you're trying to go this year. So I want to thank you guys for listening in on this episode. Again, I'd love to get your feedback and hear what you're working towards. I'd love to know there's a community of people out there that are just driving towards something that matters for them, just like I am. So I'm your host, Natalie Kime. I appreciate you listening to the Nickels and Dimes podcast, and I look forward to continuing to bring you amazing content each week in this new year of 2025 that will educate you, support you, and most importantly along the way, help you to find financial freedom. I look forward to having you listen and learn in future episodes. And until then, take care and stay safe.